Hello everyone, my name is Webweaver and welcome back to another episode of Yo What Up, Yo What Up, Yo What Up, Yo What Up. It's, as I previously said, Webweaver, and we are playing the video game. Now, here's the dealio. Final Fantasy VI will be tomorrow. I know I've put it off like for 80 years, and then, nausea is like... Final Fantasy VI is like barely above water, but then when you go under the ocean, it's like nausea. It's just like a skeleton down there. Final Fantasy VI will be the next video after the next video, which is going to be the final episode of the Dark Souls 1 series. If, you go down the Marina Trench and then that's just like a floating like skull, maybe even less so. Maybe it's been dissolved into nutrients by now by the fish, picked clean by the deep sea creatures. Now, we played Toshiaki last time, and how do I put it? It was an interesting run. It was kind of like the anti-Toshiaki run, if you think about it, because we didn't actually use the book strap, which is like surprisingly one of Toshiaki's most defining features. So we could do another Toshiaki run and just say like, hey, book strap gaming. But I don't know why, I know it was a week ago, but I'm kind of feeling an Ayaka run. We also haven't done a Miku run in a hot minute either. Being honest, being realistic. We could do a Miku run, we could do an Ayaka run. I feel like we've been doing the best hits of, like, characters I don't play very often, because it was Yumiko, Kana, Yashiro, Haru, and then Toshiaki. I actually play a lot of Toshiaki runs. But we're kind of running the gauntlet of, like, characters I haven't played in a while. And we played Kairi recently, too, didn't we? I mean, statistically, significantly further back than Miku. If I'm gonna use a week ago as an excuse to play Miku 2 weeks ago, almost, for Kairi, is probably a reasonable assumption. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of want to play Koji, too. I'm in a gaming mood right now. I'll be honest with you. It's almost like something happened, and I'm trying to desperately distract myself from the horrors that are persisting. But you know what? Let's do a little Koji run, and you know what? Let's do a little EXP Koji run. I don't want to lose the ability to succeed skill checks, because one of the things that I want to look at here is the idea of essentially, what old god am I feeling? I mean, we can just do Herald of the Shattered Court. Probably, right? Yeah, I think we can do the Herald of the Shattered Court. I would like my stats to matter for events, because I think one of the benefits, maybe, that Koji has over other characters is, you have deduction, you have the film roll, you have a lot of ways of making stonks. You have a lot of ways of making EXP stonks. And so, this might be a little bit brute forcing and we might doom out, but I've kind of been interested in trying out, like, specific themes of what characters can do. Call me crazy. But I want to try a EXP Koji, and if we have to brute force that using the History Club, we might have to, but I'm passively interested in the idea. And we'll see what we got. I can just close this web page. I don't need it open anymore. But hey, here's the thing, honestly. Crimson Cape, Wordless Ward, Mermaids, Abnormal Arms. Abnormal Arms on random timeline, you cannot do first. If you're on timeline A, you can do this mystery first, because it's just the pervert ending, right? But if you get the centipede ending, you're kind of screwed. So, honestly, I think, first of all, we need to get the money if we're going to do this, but I think we could probably just kind of chill in Mermaids for a little bit. I feel like we could kind of just chill in Mermaids. It kind of sucks, but it's like Household Hell and Mermaids are like the two safest mysteries we got going on right now. I guess I'll lean toward Household Hell because we're on Shattered Court, so the chances of getting roads closed are probably pretty high. Now, how far am I willing to go for... I'm gonna ignore Book of Gore. That's, you take Book of Gore, you immediately win the game. There's nothing you have to worry about for as long as the game goes on. I'll go up to 10%, because you have to realize taking a perk is also 10%. So, you take Ghostly Spear, you also win the game. It's kind of Jover, chat. We got, like, 2 more rerolls. I'm willing to go up to 30% Doom for... There's so much good shit in this goddamn thing. I gotta be honest with you. There was a lot of good stuff in that History Club. The History Club is one of the most game-defining things, by the way, because it really does just... oh, we have medical history. That's actually a really cool synergy. But, you know, oh, no. I mean, I didn't go too far with this, so it should be fine. I think... We're not going to get 80 million points of knowledge, unfortunately, so I think we got to kind of do it like this. I would have really liked to get Deduction, Mystery 1. But sometimes that doesn't work out that way. But so here's the thing. Stats in World of Horror are a very interesting thing for me specifically, because... It's basically like the ideal form of the gambling arc, if you know what I mean, right? So, it's like, we definitely want to do this, absolutely. You're basically in a situation where the dice roll is, for the most part, completely weighted against you. Like, it's completely weighted against you. There's not really, I guess, I was willing to go for 30% for, you know... whatchamacallit, I will absolutely make the mansion safe. I will 100% make the mansion safe. Is it 1 Doom to not save any Doom? Yes. But if it makes the dice rolls easier, then, I mean, that being safe doesn't do anything for that, but you couldn't afford that. Oh, well, look at that. Look at that immediately paying off. Because if I didn't do that, then guess what? Guess what would happen? If I didn't put the police station on to make it safe. It would be a threatening location, and we would take more damage from these things happening. We could definitely get something good in the other world, but we could definitely get something wrong, too. But I kind of feel a little bit more revitalized on World of Horror, because playing into it's very risky, and you're gonna lose a lot of games because of it, but if you have that ego death of not... Oh, would you look at that? Let's close Mystery 1. It's almost like somebody said that might happen. But, you know, like, here's the thing, right? I feel like I'm coming... I feel like there's, like, a little bit of a World of Horror resurgence in my brain right now. Because, like, the actual idea of playing the archetype characters is really interesting. Like, abusing the things that a character can do well, and taking the gamble on the... like the stats, or on the RNG. I think it's actually been quite fun, because I think if you're trying to just win in World of Horror, I mean, you know, it makes sense. Like, you want to win at the video game, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, that's so bad. Oh, I mean, improvise is good. Fast hands, if you get Burning Andy or Doll Nurse, you can, you know, you can, whatchamacallit. I'm blanking completely. You can use this perk to get bricks by gathering items in combat, weapons in combat, improvised weapons in combat. And so you could theoretically stockpile several bricks, but then you would lose your inventory size by throwing those bricks over and over again. So it's not as good as it used to be. It's not as good as it could be. Improvise, I think, is the best perk here, but I genuinely am trying to get stat stonks, honestly. I think that the idea, we do not want to take stat checks here. We want to take guaranteed outcomes or fights. Even bad fights like this, I think I'm okay with. This sucks if, like, 2 miss, but if all of them hit, you know, that's exactly what you're trying to make happen here. Now, I'm holding on to the sewing kit. I want to sell the sewing kit, because despite having the film roll Honestly, I kind of want to... We do have Akamanto, though. That's the problem. Like, I want to sell things, and I want to get funds so that... Second enemy ghoul, by the way. We didn't fight anybody in our first mystery. I'm, like, 90% sure, right? Yeah, no, we got out of the first mystery immediately. Like, I'm trying to remember, did we get... No, we didn't get Hole Ridden Thing or anything like that. Wait, did we get anybody in the mansion? Because it would be Time Warp. I'm pretty sure it's Ghoul's second enemy. That's going to be my answer. And it's going to be relevant, by the way. It's going to be extremely relevant. Now, this is a part where you would want to run away. Like, this is just terrifying. Like, this is just a terrifying fight. You have to kind of just hedge your bets on the fact that you have a sewing kit. It's over. we tried gambling, and it did not work. We do have a camera, admittedly, so maybe I should have used that. But, I mean, you gotta hit these eventually, right? Like, you gotta hit these eventually. Or maybe we just miss everything. Maybe that's fine. Maybe you just miss literally every attack. You know, maybe we should have used the camera. The boss would have missed, the normal enemy would have missed her attacks. Can you believe it? Honestly, as much as I hate to do this to my run, because this makes it a lot more risky, and we're probably going to lose, but please don't. Okay, that's good. That's fine, because then we can do this, and we're looking pretty good. We're looking decently okay. Now, it's a disaster after what happened, but... Like, here's the thing. Jar of Blood is not... I'm bouncing all over the walls right now. I'm gonna get, Listen, I saw the viral tweet, too. I'm gonna get banned from SNL. I'm gonna get blacklisted from Saturday Night Live. I'm bouncing off the walls. I mean, +1 knowledge goes crazy. Kind of. I would like it. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it, chat. Just because it's like... I enjoy the idea. I enjoy the idea of getting a lot of stats. We can burn it all down, and then as we're burning... I put the bandage in the storage, by the way. Completely fine. Price hike and... Winds of Plague. Winds of Plague, I think, still doesn't do anything. Looking at Koji's portrait right now. Oh my god, is that a mouthwashing reference? I bought mouthwashing. Okay. I don't know what kind of game it is, I'll be honest. I'm going to probably play it alone. And then I might talk about it later, but... I mean... It just looks really good. I have no idea anything about it, but I enjoy mouthwashing. I have no idea why it's called that, by the way. It seems to be a space horror game. Like, do you drown somebody with mouthwash or something? I don't know. I mean, you might. Game looks pretty nuts, honestly. Wordless Ward, Abnormal Arms, Akamanto. You know what? I hate to say it, but I think we probably go gambling in Akamanto. Just because he is gonna have more health and +1 damage, I'm pretty sure, but... I think you want to do it earlier than later, just because we have stamina now, and we're not gonna have Doom to get failed perception check once, you can succeed it a second time. You got 7 perception, it's pretty good. Now, ideally, we would probably... Oh my god. We would probably want to, you know... We could die here, by the way. We didn't, though. We lived, but... Well, actually, no, it would have done 3 damage, because it would have done 3 sanity damage, because it doesn't have the high threat level modifier. But you can... There's, like, an event in the hospital that can do, like, 4 damage to you, and it's nuts. I'll take the free... I'll take the 20 EXP in my back pocket. Thank you so much. Now, deduction is a little bit too little too late, but... That's what I was trying to fish for in the... I swear, there's gotta be some, like... item perk pool generation that happens in this game. Like, when you start a run, or when you boot the game, I don't know what it is, but there's gotta be some sort of system where when you start playing, there is a pool of available perks, items, injuries, and weapons, and all of the game, all of the run, is biased towards the items in this pool, and it does not start pulling items from other pools until those items are depleted.
Well, we're terribly sorry. We've lost Emmerdale.
Sorry about the Emmerdale, folks. We had a interruption in the form of me coughing while I was in the middle of speaking. I have no idea, absolutely none, what I was going off about or what I was yapping about before it's Look Who It Is happened. Are you kidding me? Bruh, they hit me with a 12? I don't know. We're just gonna rest. Just gonna rest. It's fine. We're just gonna rest. It's okay. We'll be at 50 Doom. We'll be at 50 Doom. We'll be 51 Doom. We'll be at whatever Doom. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everything will be okay. I think we just do this. It'll be alright, right? I'm like 90% sure. But, there's a game that I was playing a lot recently. I just beat it. I don't know if I talked about it. Echo Point Nova. I want to make a video about it, but I don't know how. Because it's like a, it's like an open world first-person movement shooter. It's like, that is not something that my ass would cover. And yet, it's kind of goated. It's kind of based, actually. It's, like, really good. And I had a lot of fun playing it. I wouldn't even normally play a game that's like that, to be honest with you. It's not my initial style of game. I did enjoy, oh god, what was that one game where you went to heaven and you had to, like, kill the demons to try to, like, win the contest so you could stay in heaven? You're like a sinner. That was a movement shooter. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that, but I never beat it. But Echo Point Nova was really good. I liked it. I enjoyed playing it, and I thought it was a generally pretty well done experience. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. 95% chance to hit, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful. Alright, go. You're goddamn right. We could've, with the excellent RNG that we had with, It's Look Who It Is, we could've done some fancy stuff like that. We're never taking it off. I have said that before and then taken it off and then died to it, but it's like not happening very often. It's not happening very often. We're gonna be fine. It's gonna be all right. We're gonna be fine. Wordless ward, huh? I mean, I guess we do abnormal arms and then the hospital is safe. Are you kidding me? The freaking hospital is safe, bruh. I should have taken the sanity damage, actually, now that I think about it. Our sanity's bing and or chillin'. But, yeah, Echo Point Nova, you play like this mercenary, you're on a hoverboard. The movement mechanics feel really clunky at first, by the way. And the gun is way too close to the camera in comparison to the FOV. It kind of was a little bit nuts. But, nice perception check failure. Good job, bestie. It's just kind of goated, honestly. Like, it's just a really well-made game. Like, it's just really well done. Like, I like, no notes. Like, literally no notes. It's just a brilliantly done game. The design is very smart in how it, maybe this is just, like, the dumbest combo I've ever done in my life, but it's kind of goated. It's kind of goated, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of goated. Goes down to 19. The problem is it's like we can only do 3 attacks, so getting Gigolo down to 19 doesn't really work. How far off are we? Oh, we're nowhere close. This is why you need attack speed, dude. Attack speed's goated. If camera flash scaled with knowledge, or scaled in any way. Oh, maybe it should scale with perception if it were to scale, but it's just really strong. I mean, we gotta start dealing damage, you know? We gotta start dealing damage. I don't like taking 2, but Like, I mean, we could use the flash and then just, like, you know, embrace the RNG, embrace the randomness, embrace the roll of the dice. Embrace the roll of the dice! And it shall reward you. But as easily as the dice giveth, they also taketh away. I don't know, outdoorsman for the hospital elevator? We could get 2 coughing bloods at any time, by the way. We are playing on whatchamacallit. I do not need this. I'm like 90% sure I don't need this. But this does let us run away from the guy, or get vital clued, or get branded like cattle. The hospital's a freaking minefield for that stuff, brother. You should really know better when you get into the hospital, sister. Like, honestly. But, yeah, it's just a really good game. I just keep thinking about it. And I beat it, and I really want to make a video about it, but I have no idea what kind of video that I'd make. Because it's like, I don't know, we're going to the hospital, so we might as well get injured. Oh, shit! If we fought the centipede demon, I was really about to say, like, this is how it ends. Like, we are going to get coughing blood triggering on the first attack, and we're gonna die. Oh, look at that! The empty bottle is now on the menu to be sold. But we're gonna, you know, sell it for... Actually, have we even gotten the what's it yet? Let's see. Painkiller or empty bottle? I think you gotta sell the empty bottle, honestly. Coughing blood is enemy of the people. Badly bruised, you're a son of a gun. You're a piece. I mean, we have 7 perceptions, so why not, chat? Why not? We could definitely use this again, but, you know, I'm a little bit worried about our sanity more than anything else. Oh my god, what did I press? Get me out of here. You misclick on Wordless Ward, and your ass is in the goddamn doldrums. You're in the freaking dungeon, dude. I think you gotta run. As much as I'd like to win this combat, listen, Miku, fill your grandmother's prescription. Leave me the hell alone. You're in the right place for that. Oh, Doll Nurse, hello. We were just talking about you earlier, actually, if you can believe it. If Fast Hands... I'm just now thinking about a Koji Infinite. If there was a way to scavenge items that cost money, then you could go infinite on Doll Nurse with Film Roll. I don't think Fast Hands... Let me see the pool of what Fast Hands can let you get. I hope the wiki has it. The extra items can be a brick or an empty bottle? Are you crazy? Oh, so you can just go infinite. You can just you can, if you have Fast Hands and Film Roll, and then you find Doll Nurse or Burning Man, you can literally just go infinite. Like you can literally go infinite. Oh, but you can't sell things during combat, can you? So you couldn't go infinite, but theoretically you'd be able to do 4 plus however many storage slots you have, which would be more money than you could... Well, no, you couldn't go infinite because you can't sell during combat. Darn. Darn. You could get a level, though. You could get a free level up every Doll Nurse if you really were patient enough. That's actually kind of funny, honestly. That's honestly, I respect that. I do. I respect that. I mean, we're not gonna probably need to... What if eating the painkillers counted as starting combat and we just died to, like, an untelegraphed, like, 80 damage attack that nobody ever knows about because Doll Nurse is a pacifist enemy? That would be so funny. That would genuinely be great. God, if only... Okay, somebody needs to find a glitch that allows you to sell items during combat, and then Koji is the most overpowered character in the game because he can go infinite on 2 enemies and get unlimited EXP. But right now, he can just get, like, 10 times the amount of, you know, storage slots and inventory slots you have. Which is pretty respectable, by the way. Yeah, sure, let's get another one. Oh, they're all branches? Oh no, they're all branches. What have I done? Hold on, put this in storage, please. Give me a broken bottle. There we go. We can only throw a broken bottle and a branch without losing inventory size, so... let's see. Let's regain some sanity here, you don't mind? I should have sold the sewing kit, by the way. No, I shouldn't have. We're not gonna die. All right, I'm gonna use this twice, and then I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And then I'll just use this because we're not getting black hair, which is totally fine. Were we at 4 charisma or 3? Because this is the second sewing kit we've used. I thought it would stack the charisma, but at least from how I was paying attention. Oh, hey, vital clue. Crazy. Wacky, even. Oh my god. You click one wrong button, and you're just in hell, honestly. You just get sent to the Shadow Realm, the back rooms of the hospital. Honestly, that would be kind of like... That's such a good idea. If you accidentally click the wrong button in this mystery, or any mystery that, like, locks you in an area like this, you just go and you get, like, alternate mystery. You just get thrown into the back rooms, and it's like you have to escape. That would be so good. Like, maybe once you come out of the back rooms, it's like you missed your friend's surgery, and something horrific happened. And so it's like your friend is now like a monster, is like reality warped when you left it behind or something. Oh my god. Or maybe they were just walking around faceless with a knife, you know? Something like that. Anything like that would be so cool. You could even do something like if your doom was a specific way, or if you, like, sometimes if you click, like, if doom was over 50%, there's like a 25% chance every time you click, like, maybe less than that because you have to click it multiple times, but like maybe like a 5% chance that every time you click it, you go into the, you might get sent into the hospital back rooms or something like that. There's a lot of cool things, because there's a lot of cool things you could do with this game, with, like, alternate dimension stuff. And I really, 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 really hope the modding floodgates are opened back up, because I really do think that, World of Horror is a very interesting game, in the sense of... How do I put it? It's like... World of Horror has the potential to be like one of the GOATs. It really does. But... the fact of the matter is that it was kind of like... a little bit sabotaged, almost. Which might seem a little bit, like, rude or whatever to say. But if you think about it, we did, I mean, this was, like, relatively fine. I don't know if the level up before the boss fight is... You know what? Sure, improvise. That basically guarantees... We will get 8 strength after this, so give me, like, knowledge for fun, you know? Give me the branch, and I guess the film roll, even though it doesn't really matter. I mean, you know what? We don't need inventory size. We're not carrying anything that matters. We can lower our inventory size by 1. It's the perfect face. We lost 3 inventory slots for throwing... That's so weird. That is genuinely, like, really strange, honestly. I'm not gonna... I don't get it. I don't get it, dude. Whatever. That's fine. We're just gonna do this twice and take 4 damage. Coughing blood? No coughing blood. No coughing blood. Get out of here. Sit yourself down. We didn't even need to run away from the enemy in this mystery, but, like, Okay, so here's the thing. Unfortunately, we live in the world of live service games where, genuinely speaking, people believe, like, this is something that is, like, madness to me, and it's how I know that, like, the generation that I grew up in or whatever, or, like, the people who, like, played video games back in the day, you know, back in the prehistoric days of Phantasy Star Online. Here's the thing, right? Which I guess Phantasy Star Online was one of the first live service games, because there's, like, a bunch of updated, revisioned versions of the game that had new content, like Blue Burst, and there's, like, a bunch of different versions of the game that have different content. Bad example. But, like, okay. Back in the day, TM, a game would come out, and that would be it. That's all you're getting. You're buying this game, that's all you're getting. And then, when we kind of got to, like, the MMO online gaming era, we started getting expansion packs. So, you would buy a game, and if it did well, or the developers just made it for some reason, they would make an expansion pack. So, you would have your game, and then it would be, like, the only game that you're getting, and then maybe, like, a year or two later, a while later even sometimes, or maybe a shorter period of time depending on, like, blah blah blah, right? But you would get an expansion pack, and that expansion pack would be like half of the game, right? Like, it would be like a 1.5, or it would be like a completely new and expanded way to play the game, and it would cost money, right? And the game would come out, and eventually, when we got to, like, the Xbox Live PlayStation Network line of gaming, right, we got DLC and microtransactions, and expansions were, you know, less used. It was more DLC expansion, you know, it was DLC, it was downloadable content, microtransactions. We started seeing a shift to that, okay? And so you would buy, like, Oblivion or something, or, maybe Skyrim is a more appropriate one to say, but you would buy, like, you know, a Call of Duty game or an Elder Scrolls game, and when it came out, that was the game. You got your campaign, you got your multiplayer, if it had multiplayer, and then, like, months later, years later, it would get an expansion pack, you know? Like, look at all of the old Call of Duty games on, like, Steam, and see how many of them have, like, these expansions that are, like, $20, right? Like, let me go to, like, let me go to, I mean, I'm just gonna see, like, Modern Warfare 3. The original one, 2011 Modern Warfare 3. They're still selling the DLC for this, aren't they? Yes, they are. Collections. The Modern Warfare 3 collections. I don't know why when I go to look at all DLC, there's nothing there. Collection 2, Collection 1, Collection 3, Collection 4. These were DLCs that launched, like, new game modes, new maps, etc., right? This shit was $15. You know, you look at something like Oblivion or Skyrim, you would get, like, a expansion DLC, or even a smaller DLC, like the Iron Thorn Castle or something? Like, I think Oblivion just includes all of the DLC. But, like, you know, you'd get the Knights of the Nine, which was, like, an expansion. The Shivering Isles, which was, like, a proper expansion. The Fighter's Stronghold, which was, like, just a small DLC. The Vile Lair, small DLC. Mehrunes Razor, small DLC, that sort of thing, right? Oh, my curator, Bethesda Softworks, that I'm following, recommends Oblivion Game of the Year Edition. If you can believe it, folks. The official Bethesda I don't know if this is official, but, oh no, fan group, okay. Yeah, who would have guessed that the fan group, Bethesda Softworks, Beth Soft, likes and recommends Bethesda games. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought, chat? But, like, you know, you used to get expansions, and then as, like, updates and downloadable content became more, like, available and more acceptable, you would get DLC, which was just, like, you know, downloadable content of various sizes for the game. Could be, like, a new game mode, it could be a player house, it could be, like, a weapon skin pack, could be gameplay advantages, whatever. Now, games come out, and they come out in a broken state that doesn't work, with microtransactions, with DLC, and people expect there to be roadmaps. People expect there to be, like, content roadmaps for months, if not, like, a year-long roadmap, like, years of a roadmap, where it's like, this is what we're doing for the game, like, 6 months, 9 months after launch, and then after that, we're doing roadmap 2. And, you know, I have seen, like, games come out, and specifically World of Horror, right? Like, World of Horror, and we in the community can press X to doubt or whatever when it comes to actually, like, the finality of this game, because we know the scope and scale of this game and what was promised and what was never delivered, blah, 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 right? World of Horror was released in 1.0. And immediately after 1.0 came out, do you know what happened? Do you know what happened immediately after 1.0 came out? People said that the game was dead and abandoned by the developer. Now, who knows if that's actually true, right? I don't know if anybody knows, because we've waited year-plus long points of time for content before in early access, right? But I don't think that you can say that. Like, even if it's true, like, this game's not gonna get any more updates, it's done, it's never gonna get touched again. Like, let's say that's hypothetically true. The game released. You know, the developer was happy enough with the content that it had, and the finality of the content that it had, to where they released a 1.0 version of the game. And, you know, it's, if you have a problem with the amount of content, or the quality of the content, or the stability of the content, that's not a criticism. I don't think you can call the game early access anymore, or, like, in development anymore. I don't think that's a fair criticism. I think you could... I think it's the wrong framing for criticism anyways. But, you know, I feel like a game like World of Horror was never going to succeed in the modern day, because, one, you know, this is the live service hell that we live in, where since World of Horror didn't have a roadmap that was followed religiously, that was released the moment the game came out of early access, and the roadmap had, like, you know, a shit ton of things on it, even if they weren't, like, meaningful. You know, the game didn't have a roadmap, the updates were irregular and not very frequent, and there's not a lot of, how do I put it? Like, okay, think of, like, a popular roguelite, right? Like, think of something like Slay the Spire. That game has a lot of RNG into it, and depending on the character you're playing, some characters have more RNG influence than others, right? So if you're playing the Defect, the Defect is a harder character who relies on RNG more than a character like the Ironclad. And then when the Watcher came out, the Watcher is so good that when piloted by a player who knows what they're doing, the Watcher can win, like, 95+% of all games. Like, I don't know how real these statistics are, but I remember hearing something like, the Watcher can win, like, 95 to 98% of all games, the Ironclad can win, like, 88, or, like, 80+% of all games. I don't remember how many games the Silent could win, but the Defect could only win, like, 65% of the games, you know? Like, some characters are more RNG reliant than others, and then the Watcher's just OP, along with not being very RNG reliant, right? But the thing is, what does World of Horror... Like, okay, when you're playing Slay the Spire, there are a lot of different ways that you can play every character, and they are all meaningfully integrated into the game's mechanics, right? So if you want to play the Ironclad, for instance, what kind of Ironclad do you want to play? Do you want to play Strength Ironclad? Do you want to play Block Ironclad? Do you want to play Exhaust Ironclad, and then they have synergies in between them? Do you want to play, like, AoE, Whirlwind, Immolate Ironclad? And here's the thing, what kind of Strength Ironclad do you want to play, right? Do you want to play the Strength Ironclad who is at death's door 24/7, and by using, like, you know, stuff like Hemokinesis, and you're barely staying alive by healing yourself with Reaper when you get, like, a bunch of strength? Or do you want to play like a heavy blade version, or do you want to play like a perfected strike version? And not all of these are good, right? But like, and when you look at like the block archetype and the exhaust archetype, it's like, what kind of exhaust do you want to do, right? Are you exhausting your defend cards to thin your deck so that you can use powerful offensive skills every turn? Or are you using exhaust cards to get as much block as possible with the hopes of no matter how long the fight takes, you will never run out of block, right? And, the Silent has shivs and poison. The Defect has 0-cost cards, like claws, physical damage cards, and orbs. And, their orbs have, like, different kinds of builds, so you could go, like, Frost Block, lightning damage, dark for like the nuke, plasma for the energy, and some of these like have archetypes of their own, right? Like you can go with a frost block build or a lightning damage build, and I haven't played the Watcher nearly enough, and I haven't played the Silent in a while. I'm a Defect Andy. I really like playing the Defect. He's really fun, despite being really bad at the Defect. But here's the thing, right? It's like, what does World of Horror have that gives it that sauce, or that, like, here's the thing, games do not need to be endlessly replayable, but when you are a roguelike, people assume that they are, right? And the only reason why I have endlessly played this game is, I don't know, it's, like, enjoyable. That shrug? I don't really know how to answer the question. It's enjoyable. Yeah. It's an enjoyable experience. I don't really know what to say other than that. But, when you are in a when you're playing a roguelike, people expect replayability, they expect variety, and they expect, like, silly things that can happen. Now, World of Horror, I think, was always doomed because this is a passion project game that just sort of, like, takes things from different games and different genres that it wants to, and it uses them all unapologetically, even in cases where it doesn't, like, if you were in, like, a design studio, right, and somebody pitched this to you, you wouldn't ever bank it, This is a passion project that somebody has been wanting to make for a long time, and they made it. For better or worse, it is the video game that it is. And so I think that World of Horror is fundamentally a bad... I think World of Horror is fundamentally a bad product, but it is a good game. It is a good art piece. It is good in what it is trying to do. And I think at the end of the day, that's the kind of game that I like the best, because this shit's authentic. Like, nobody who is trying to make, like, an indie darling that is the most, like, popular game in the world, nobody is ever gonna make that this game, which I don't mean as an insult. I genuinely mean it as, like, a compliment. This game is, it is a legitimate, like, it's a legitimate piece of art, and it is very, like, fundamentally interesting, and it's very enjoyable to play and experience, But the thing is, it's like, this game, I do believe, was set up for success, but because of how the game itself works, it was screwed from the beginning. Because remember, every single time this game got an update, every single time this game had, like, some major news, games journalists and people in the industry were covering it. People were trying to get this game to the point where it would be gangbusters. It got several articles, and people would write about it, and people would talk about it. Streamers would play it for Halloween. It's just, it never hit that broad sort of, like, appeal, or that's the worst possible word I could have used. It never hit that sort of section of the internet where it, like, popped off, Like, it popped off with its fan base. But, the game never had the consistent updates or consistent community or consistent work behind it to where it would constantly feed into the sort of live service hell that we all live in. And so I think that fundamentally, like from a product perspective, there are a lot of issues with World of Horror. But the fact that it is so authentically itself and is so weird, even though that makes it like very simple. Like there's two kinds of weird games, okay? And I can illustrate this with something like I don't know. You can illustrate this with something like Disillusion and I don't know. I haven't played Dolls Liminal yet. I did hear about it. I don't know. Weird games. Probably like a like a lobotomy corporation, right? Something like that. There's a difference between there's two kinds of weird games. There are games that are weird aesthetically and weird presentationally, right? They have an artistic vision, an artistic goal, and they are chaste, but the actual gameplay mechanics are grounded in something that is decently easy to understand, but maybe due to the presentation of how the game works, that it's obfuscated. Oh my god, I heard the word perfectly in my head, and then my mouth failed the speech check. But like, you know, obfuscated. Thank you. To the point where maybe even though it is simple, it's a little bit more difficult to like parse and deal with. And then once you understand that it is a simple game, you're just sort of like locked in for the aesthetic, the story. That's Disillusion. That's Disillusion and World of Horror, right? World of Horror is a weird game that is fundamentally very simple, but everything is obfuscated in a way that it essentially is very difficult for a new player to read, very difficult for a new player to parse. But then you have, like, genuinely weird games, right? Like, genuinely unhinged, weird games that are unclear on what you do, difficult to play. You have to be willing to interface with them at their pace, at their level, and enjoy them for what they are, because they will not compromise for what you want, right? So, from what I've heard about it, that would be something like Dolls Liminal, that would be something like Lobotomy Corporation. I'm scrolling through my Steam library to see any others that, like, immediately pop out to me, but, you know, that's just sort of like the... Pathologic, another great example. Pathologic is a crazy game, and its mechanics are borderline psychotic. So that would be a game that is like, you have to engage with it on its level, and it's genuinely weird and clunky in both, like, gameplay and, like, game presentation. Another example of this might be the new Slitterhead game, I think it's called, that just came out, that looks really cool, where you play, like, a thing that can possess people, and the combat is apparently unhinged. The combat is apparently crazy, clunky, janky, right? It's people describe it as a very unique and interesting concept, and it's a clunky and weird game that has a clear vision about what it's doing, and if you vibe with that vision, then you'd really like it. Another thing also might be like, you know, like a Killer 7. That's also a very strange game. From both a gameplay standpoint, a mechanical standpoint, and a, you know, a presentation standpoint. So you basically have, like, the two different kinds of weird, right? Presentation weird and everything, including gameplay weird. And World of Horror has such a strange presentation and such a bad tutorial that it comes across as one of these, like, esoteric, strange games that you have to have, like, you have to go into a deep dive to understand. You have to have, like, a fundamental, unhinged, peering into the Necronomicon understanding of it. But it's actually really, really simple, right? Like, it's a really simple to play game. It's just that because of how it's presented, it doesn't seem that way. And so it's very strange in how it works like that, because, well, you know, when people think that, like, oh my god, this game is so in-depth and weird and crazy, I have to, like, really dig deep into this and figure out, like, all this stuff about it. When you do that, you're disappointed, because it's actually really simple, and there's not really a lot of stuff to dig into. There's not really a lot of stuff to, like, enjoy. There's not a lot of esoteric nonsense to get obsessed about. It's a very, like, easy to play, easy to understand game. You just have to read between the lines to find out that it is easy to play. You just have to play it enough to realize, like, oh yeah, this is just basic mechanics. And that's not an insult to the game, but it is trying to put into perspective that, like, you are playing a game where, essentially, you're basically getting into a game that looks like it has more depth than it does. And that's not the game's, well, it's the game's fault in the sense that the tutorial is dog shit, right? And that all of the new player experience is completely and utterly dog shit, right? But once you sort of get past that new player experience, you realize how simple the game actually is. And then, if the game is a simple roguelike, that's usually a winning formula. But then you realize that this game is a mishmash of a bunch of different genres. It's gone through several design iterations from several different pieces of media as well. It was originally a physical card game. And so it has a lot of really, like, weird choices. And then you just kind of realize that, yeah, these mechanics are just like... this game is a roguelike in the sense of those are the mechanics that the developer were using at that point in development. To call it, like, a proper roguelike is, I suppose, technically correct, but in the way of, like, if you are a roguelike fan, you're probably going to be done with this game very quickly, because you unlock all the achievements, and then you're like, oh, the mystery secret achievements was, like, I don't know, the blue gem riddle, and maybe drinking the blood and not dying. Like, and botany ending A. That's another mystery that the game has. But the game doesn't really have a lot of mysteries, and they're all very difficult and a pain in the ass to get. And then the rest of the game is just very simple. This game is unhinged completely, in the sense of, like, it is so many different kinds of game at once that it can't really be any kind of game. And it genuinely feels more like a resource management roguelike instead of, like, anything else. And I heavier emphasis on the resource management than anything else. It's such a weird game. And it could go crazy. But it doesn't need to. It's released. And I feel like if you don't like it because it got released and it doesn't have a lot of content for a roguelike, yeah, sure, whatever. I can't complain about that. I played this shit for 1,000 hours. And made, you know, these videos are monetized, so I'm making bank. So I literally can't. I have made more money off of playing this game than I have on spending money on this game. I've made more money on this game than I have spent on this game, because it was a one-time purchase. I do think I bought it for somebody, though. And I have sold, like, 3 or 4 copies. I've had people comment on the videos saying that I'm the reason why they bought the game. So, I don't know. A little bit of, give and a little bit of take going on there, but, I don't know, it's such a weird game. It's such a weird game. Oh, damn, it's already over a year old. It came out on October 19th, 2023. I didn't even remember. But, yeah, it's a weird game. I wouldn't call it an RPG. I'd barely call it a roguelike, but that's probably because I've already unlocked everything. And I would call it more of a resource management game than anything else. It's definitely not an RPG. It's definitely not a roguelite. Well, I mean, it's kind of a roguelite. It has roguelite elements, I suppose, but I don't know, it's so weird. It's such a weird game. It has so many board game and card game elements in it that just don't work. Oh, it's such a weird game. We love World of Hurt. We really do. I'm well about this game. I'm normal about this game. Stay safe out there. Have a good one. Bye.